All right, welcome back for another episode of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com where I talk about those books that are still probably tucked away in those cheap boxes, in those dollar bins, in those discount boxes, where you can find some books that may be related to some of the recent news, some of the rumors, things going on in the comics, and just sort of like a fun scavenger hunt kind of angle with some books you can go and look for this weekend when you go digging through those cheap boxes. Just some fun stuff. Sometimes you'll find books that are worth more than you think, but in a lot of cases, this is just some fun books that you can go and track down and, get a good read, get some good art, and just tie into some of the stuff like I mentioned. Hopefully you're still enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. Check out our memberships as we got membership-only content dropping every week now. And with that all said, if you want to see what books I got for you this week, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. All right, so first things first, let's start off with our first story here that was kind of talking a little bit about the announced Green Lantern show that we're going to be getting on, I guess, HBO Max, with James Gunn now helming the ship for DC. A little bit of rumors and some insight and things that he has said about what it's going to be focused on, talking about it's going to be Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan. They're going to be investigating some sort of deeper mystery. I know they mentioned things like True Detective, but I don't think it's so much that angle. I mean, maybe they do. If they do decide to go this route, some of that more macabre type stuff may play into if they are working towards Blackest Night. I'm a big fan of the Blackest Night run. Jeff Johns' run on Green Lantern is one of my favorites. I even had cufflinks at my wedding when I got married in 2010 because of Green Lantern. So I was a big fan, and still am a big fan. But this is a series you can go and still dig. You can dig these out because it was heavily printed. There's plenty of copies, and it's just a good read. So regardless of if this pans out or not, these are worth grabbing just for this event alone. I think it was a great story and a fun little run. A lot of ancillary books that go with this, but the main line 8-issue mini is something you could find in those boxes. Some of these have hit a little bit here, some spec hit on a couple of the books throughout the run, but you can by and large find most of these in those cheap boxes. Starting off with this #1, fantastic cover with the skull and all the rings, the black hand, and you had death, you had the return of all these dead characters in DC as like zombies. It was a really cool story. That's it. There's issue 1, and then like I said, you can find the rest of it. There's 2, 3, 4 other covers you can find. There's second prints for these covers. There's incentive variants for these covers. Lots of different versions, 5, 6, and 7. And we get all the other lanterns introduced, all the other colors of the rainbow, basically. The emotional spectrum, all represented. And here you go with the final issue, issue 8. But while you're looking out for all of these, just to give you a kind of a broad strokes, kind of example here, you can see I'm showing you issue 1, but issue 1 could sell for like $8, and then the whole series like $27. It's like I said, it's not a lot. It's not an expensive series. There's plenty of them out there, but it could just be worth your time just to pick them up to read, especially if you can find them really cheap. Asking prices again here. I just as an example, there are some lots of the series right in that kind of like 30, 35, even up to $40 range, but like $7 for like issue 1 is by and large, kind of the asking prices. So again, just giving you a little bit of a sense of what's going on here. But if that's not your speed and you're like, I don't want to grab some huge major event book, that's not fun. Well, here's a fun little book that could tie into this. If they do decide to go this route and decide to go with Blackest Night, perhaps they go and dig into where the story might start. Maybe we start getting the seeds planted in this Green Lantern series, and perhaps they start looking for the Book of Black, and that was kind of central to the storyline with the Black Hand and the Book of Black and just the Black Lanterns, all that stuff. That item or that I don't know what you want to call it. Well, it's not a I guess MacGuffin. I guess MacGuffin is probably the best word for it. It's kind of like, the Darkhold, the Darkhold in the Marvel Universe. So it's a similar type evil book of sorts, I guess. But the Book of Black, that was actually introduced out before the series. So before the series started, and you can find that one probably in your dollar boxes because this is a very cheap book. I mean, it was $1 to start. This is Adventure Comics #0. You see the callback, the homage, the Superboy, and you got the Legion. Introduced a lot of things that DC was planning at the time. $1 book at the time, issue 0 for Adventure, you can still probably find it for $1. And like I said, inside this, you get introduced to the the lone guardian there who's guarding the Book of Black, and you get the Book of Black there shown, and you got the Black Lantern symbol, Black Hand, cool stuff. Again, I'd say get the whole series, but this is an extra book for you to go and look for. And this is one, again, it doesn't sell for a lot. Look, $2.19, one sold for back in January. And then you look asking prices, there's one up for $1.25. It's not an expensive book. I'm not saying you're going to get rich if you find this book, but it could be a fun little book to find. And who knows? Who knows where it might go, right? So one book for you to go and try to track down, Adventure Comics #0. Moving on to our next story. I'm not reading these because I have very little interest in all these different goblins. Gold goblins, red goblins, purple goblins, night goblins, hobgoblins, what was it? Hollows Eve, whatever that orange... I don't care. There's just too many goblins. I'm just not all that interested. I'm a big Spidey fan, but there's too many goblins. That said, I haven't felt like this for a while because we did have this happen once before when the Green Goblin and we had the Goblin King, you had a Goblin Knight, you had all of that. And now we seem to be going back to those days because here, an old victim of the Green Goblin is back. And that victim is reintroduced here. I guess comes back to life because the character is gone. And this is in Red Goblin #1. This comes out, and it's Long Live the Goblin King. So the Goblin King is returning, and if you remember who the Goblin King was, it's Phil Urich, Ben Urich's nephew, if I remember correctly. And he was first introduced in the guise of wearing the Green Goblin suit at the time, Web of Spider-Man 125. So you don't see the character of Phil yet. You come to find out later who was inside that suit, but there we go. As the Green Goblin, this was Phil Urich being introduced in Web of Spider-Man 125. All right, this is a book. Again, you got that weird little holofoil disc on the cover, so it's a gimmick book from the 90s. Another one of those books you can find out there pretty cheap. I mean, it's sold okay at times. You can see some best offers on $9, $14, or $25. Asking prices on this thing is anywhere from like $3 to $15. A lot of places will list it as being first, Phil Urich, and listing it even with Goblin King in the listings. I mean, it is what it is. But as you can see, it was like a couple of panels with him as Green Goblin in this story that didn't really focus in around him. Now, if that doesn't float your boat and you don't like that, or want to go dig for that book because it's kind of a silly first, maybe you're more in line with thinking, you know what, you actually want the first Goblin King. The first time Phil decides to go by Goblin King, because before, like I said, he went by Goblin Knight. I think he was Hobgoblin for a little bit as well, but he decided to take the moniker of Goblin King in Amazing Spider-Man #5. Now, this book already does all right, not because of that. This book does all right because it's the second appearance of Silk. As you guys know, Silk, she showed up in an ASM4. Well, unless you want to count that little cameo in ASM1, but in ASM4, that was by and large, people look at that as Silk's first. So this is her second appearance. So because of that, a lot of people like to throw more money at the second appearance because, well, they get priced out of the first appearance. So they start going to the second book. But apart from that, in this story with Mr. Negative, you do get the Goblin King telling him, basically saying, refer to me as the Goblin King. I've earned it. Like this was, again, during the whole, there was all those different goblins, the Goblin Gang that was rolling, a lot of goblins. And we seem to be going back that way again. But so if you want the first Goblin King, that was in this book here, ASM5. And as I said, this does okay already because of it being second Silk. So it could be tough to go track down, but doesn't mean you can't be aware of it and go look for it if you want to go check it out for fun. Because copies could sell for as cheap as like $2.60 up to, $10, $18. Those are some recent sales. Asking prices anywhere in like 20 to 40 are a lot of the asking prices now. So as I said, it's not cheap, but cheap copies do come up. But I'm telling you, don't worry about online. Go dig in the boxes. I'm sure you can go find some stuff. Now, we don't have a lot this week, so I know I'm kind of speeding through this, but hey, I don't want to just drag shows out just to drag them out. But we're just going to move on to our next story. And if you guys watched Tack last night, you saw we did review a recent Swamp Thing book. Swamp Thing on the Mind. And I think it's interesting that, a new Swamp Thing movie, which was also announced to come from James Gunn, they're speculating on some of the villains that we might see in that potential movie. Was it Anton Arcane? He shows up in like OG, like Swamp Thing 1 and 2, so you're not going to find those. So that him finding his first appearance and the first appearance of that villain is probably going to be kind of tough. But another person they reference a lot, and we could see it kind of fits with Swamp Thing, is the Floronic Man. So that's an angle we could see. I could see it working. I mean, there was precedence of that where was it Alan Moore? I think Alan Moore wrote him into the Swamp Thing mythos, and we'll get to that book. Now, The character's original first appearance, just as the he wasn't yet the Floronic Man. I forget what the doctor's name. It's like a just a simple name. It's like a JW. I don't know, I forget. But anyway, Adam number one. You're not going to find Adam number one in the box anyway. So we'll just write that one off anyway. You're not finding the first appearance of the character, but he doesn't become the Floronic Man until this Flash book, much later in the 70s. So in Flash 245, so this is Flash Volume 1. This is but later in the run, 245, this is where we're getting the first appearance of the Floronic Man, who is, Jason Woodrow. That's where the JW came from. Anyway, vaguely remembered. Jason Woodrow undergoes the transformation and he becomes the Floronic Man. So this is the book where we get him as that character. So it's not Jason's first, but it's the Floronic Man's first. And as again, you might think this is an expensive book, but it really isn't all that expensive, even online. And plenty list it as first Floronic Man as well. It's not a secret in any way, but copies have sold for as cheap as like $5.50, $4. Best offer on $25. Asking prices anywhere from like $12 to $25. So you can make a few bucks if you can find one, but it doesn't mean it's definitely going to be expensive, and you might be able to dig it out. Old Flash runs, I picked up, especially like the Trial of Barry Allen. I found a bunch of those in those cheap boxes throughout the years. And if you just want to do a Flash run, and I tried for a while, they were there, and they still kind of are. So just keep an eye out for this one. You never know. Now, I mentioned that there are ties between the Floronic Man and Swamp Thing, and those were, like I said, brought in by Alan Moore in this Saga of Swamp Thing number 21. Now, this book does all right already. So finding this one's probably going to be on the tougher side, but doesn't mean you can't be aware of it. There's even a millennial reprint edition of this book that you can also look for. It's got the little gold foil stamp. I didn't get a picture of it, but I've shown them before, especially with Sandman. So there was thought highly enough for them to do a second print on this book. A reprint, I should say, not a second print. A reprint for a millennial edition and put that little gold foil stamp on it. But this one could still sell for cheap, despite all that. Look, yes, it could sell for $60 raw, but it also could sell for $6, well, $7 raw. So $7 to $60 is a wide range. Condition sensitive, all that stuff, sure, but doesn't mean you can't find it, right? So it doesn't hurt to know. Asking prices even online, $12.50 to like $40 raw, and then you can see there's a lot at auction that has a nice little run of Swamp Thing books, and that's only at about $39 right now. So it can sell all right if you find it. So you can make a few dollars if you can find this for cheap. But I'm just saying, this is what's in it. Now, I know we kind of sped through those, but that's really all that kind of struck my fancy this week as far as the news related to and things going on in the comics. Apart from this last item was actually brought to my attention by my buddy Chris Nelms. He brought it up in one of our chats and pointed it out, and then I saw the story also pop up later. But that is the fact that they are pulling some DuckTales books. Scrooge McDuck books, actually. Disney's actually going to permanently ban using these two Don Rosa Uncle Scrooge stories going forward. They're just not going to reprint them anymore. Times change, and certain things just don't fly as time goes on. So with that note, which shouldn't be a big deal, and it's not that this makes it a big deal, but a lot of people start going to grab the copies that are out there because, you're not going to be able to get them anymore because they're not going to make them anymore. But to be fair, they're out there and they've been out there. Now, the two stories in particular seem to be related to Bombi the Zombie, I think. And you can see here on the cover to the first issue that they're no longer going to be pulling. This is Uncle Scrooge number 295. It's Bombi the Zombie. It's part of some long storyline where Scrooge was trying to become the richest duck in the world. I think that's also what the story is sometimes referred to as, but it's only one part of that story. And this particular issue here is one of the ones that's just not, it's just not going to fly anymore. So they're not going to be making this one. They're not going to reprint it anymore. But there are probably copies out there. The silly animal books, the funny animal books, they're out there. I flip past and don't know which Scrooge books to grab. I just grab covers that look cool to me. This one jumps out at you. Maybe consider picking it up. Just because, again, controversy breeds, interest, which breeds higher prices. Who knows? Maybe you'll make yourself a few bucks. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's what happens. So just keep that in mind. And with that, let's look at what's sold. eBay has been cleared out now. I'm prefacing that now because we didn't even get to the available, but there's no available copies. And what's sold? all they cleared out, like I said, they were as cheap as $3 up to $9. There was a 9.8 CBCS that sold for $95, but there were no copies after that. Once I looked, all the copies gone. All the My Comic Shop, all the Mile Highs, everybody cleared out. So that doesn't mean these aren't just out there in boxes, especially those funny animal book boxes. So if you're interested, go dig, go check it out. That's the first one that got banned and is no longer to be reprinted. So let's keep that in mind too. They're not pulling these, they're not being recalled or anything like that. It's just they're just not going to make them again. They're just not going to reprint them. So temper your expectations. Again, this is just kind of for fun, a scavenger hunt, if you will. But the second book that they are also not going to be reprinting going forward because of this, you won't tell based on the cover. But there's another story with Bombi the Zombie Inside, and this is 329 from Uncle Scrooge. So like 30 issues later, thereabouts, this issue also has something in the guts that they're just not going to reprint going forward. This book also cleared from eBay, but some of these copies sold for quite a bit more. I don't know if you can see here, February 14th. So some of these were recent sales that people posted because of this news. So I don't know why nobody got to take advantage of the first book, but the second book seemed to hit better as far as returns go. Look, $48, $18, and then somebody sold it packaged with a couple other issues for $22. And all of those sales were on Valentine's Day. So just this week, just a couple days ago, and these all cleared out because now there are none left. At least right now, there's none left on eBay. But maybe you go find this in a shop somewhere near you. And I don't know, just saying. Just one of those weird little oddball things. Caught my attention. My buddy Chris, like I said, he brought it up, and I thought, hey, that's an interesting angle, and doesn't hurt. Throw it into dollar bin digging, right? Because this is something you can find out there. These are cheap. Granted, you can see the cover price on this, $7. So it may not be in a dollar bin. It might be in like a $2 bin. You might buy it at a discount. You might have to go check in some box that nobody digs through because it's got like Chip and Dale books and other Disney type stuff, maybe some Barbie comics, all those kid stuff. Maybe it's on a weird spinner rack at your LCS. Just go flip through. Who knows what you might find. Now, that all said, that's all I got for you this week. I know it's a bit of a shorter week, but yeah, I'll have some more stuff for you. I'm going to have a members-only video dropping tomorrow with the top 10 and 10. And then there's also Mail Call Madness, which will also be coming your way tomorrow night. And yeah, all the regularly scheduled programming. Saturday Night Special on Saturday. Tales from the Dark Side on Sunday, where we do have a special guest. We will have a guest on Sunday. And then next week, I'll try to get back to the regular rotation with Hidden Gems and Chasing Ghosts, etc. I'm still going to try to work in. I got some video game, gaming gold videos I want to do. JJ gave me some list of books that I want to put together for you guys, as well as a couple of toy videos I also have planned. So I got a lot to do. It's just finding the time to do it all. But hopefully you guys are still enjoying it. Thanks again for all the support and for stopping by and checking this out. I appreciate you all. Let me know in the comments again the stuff that you want to see more of. And with that all said, hope you're still enjoying it. And I'll see you guys later with some more content. All right.